Je déclare ouverte la deuxième séance plénière.
The second plenary meeting of the high-level international conference for the peaceful settlement of the question of Palestine and the implementation of the two-state solution is called to order. The conference shall now continue its general debate. As announced in our letter dated 9th June, and in accordance with the modalities of the conference contained in GA Resolution 79/81, as well as indicated yesterday, statements delivered in the general debate should not exceed 5 minutes. Speakers with longer statements are encouraged to read an abridged version of their text and then to submit the full length of their statement to estatements@un.org to be posted on the Journal of the United Nations. I now give the floor to His Excellency Ronald Ozzy Lamola, Minister for International Relations and Cooperation of South Africa.
Co-chairs, South Africa welcomes this crucial discussion on the peaceful settlement of the question of Palestine and the implementation of the two-state solution. This conference takes place at a time when we are witnessing the destruction of Gaza, its people, and in real time. In a brazen and wanton act of genocide in full view of the world, South Africa continues to condemn the horrific events of October 7th, where innocent Israeli citizens were killed. Despite this challenging context, in which the international legal and multilateral system has been paralyzed and turned into a blunt tool, the focus today on a real path to lasting peace must prevail. The might is right doctrine can no longer be justified. It has led to perpetual insecurity, and it justifies an attempt to eradicate the Palestinian people through killing and starvation. Co-chairs, South Africa hopes that this conference will plot a real path forward, based on concrete actions for the creation of a Palestinian state existing peaceful and side by side with the state of Israel, along the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital. Resolution 181, adopted by the General Assembly in 1947, provided for the creation of two states, at a time when South Africa and many other developing countries were under the yoke of colonialism. Many of us have attained our freedom and independence. However, the inalienable right to self-determination of the Palestinian people, guaranteed under international law, has remained elusive for close to 8 years. In the week preceding this conference, a concerning message was sent when the Israel Knesset adopted a motion calling for applying Israel's sovereignty over the occupied West Bank and the Jordan Valley, signaling the intention of Israel to annex this territory. This could effectively bury the two-state solution and continue with the blatant violation of international law, including UN resolutions and the ICJ rulings, which have given hope to the people of Palestine. Their hopes must not be in vain. Peace must prevail. Co-chairs, South Africa is anti-war and prefers dialogue over violence. South Africa would like to stress the following points as fundamental to restoring the credibility of the two-state solution. Firstly, all states must urgently recognize Palestine's statehood, and the territorial integrity and contiguity of Palestine should be established and respected. In this regard, South Africa welcomes the intention of the recognition of the state of Palestine by France as an important step towards achieving a two-state solution. Secondly, there cannot be peace while the very existence of the Palestinian people is being threatened by Israel's continued genocidal actions in Gaza and the forced displacement of Palestinians in the West Bank. This is part of a systematic pattern of injustice and oppression of Palestinians since the adoption of Resolution 181 and the subsequent Nakba in 1948. These actions must be condemned, and the UN Security Council must act to protect the Palestinian people in whole and in part. Thirdly, preserving the viability of the two-state solution must include promoting safeguards, such as the full respect for international law, including international humanitarian law and human rights law. It is necessary for the immediate and full implementation of resolutions of the United Nations and the provisional measures, as well as advisory opinions of the International Court of Justice, to be respected and to be implemented. Not only Israel, but all states must comply with our collective obligations under international law. We all have a duty to preserve the sanctity of international law and ensure accountability. It is against this backdrop that we have seen the establishment of the Hague Group and the recent meeting of the Madrid Group to elevate the primacy of international law, promote accountability, and ensure a just peace. Finally, all obstacles to two-state solutions should be removed. These include an immediate ceasefire and a commitment to peace process, the release of all hostages by Hamas and political prisoners by the State of Israel, the halting of illegal Israel settlement expansion, the removal of the illegal separation wall cutting across the occupied Palestinian territory, and the resumption of all international reputable human rights relief efforts and the reconstruction of Gaza, which of course can only take place once there is peace. Co-chairs, global attention is on this conference. There is an expectation that we will deliver an effective response to the destruction of an entire population and a peaceful path for preserving the prospect of a viable Palestinian state, existing side by side with the State of Israel in peace and security. This expectation should not be misplaced and could not be higher. 8 years since the founding of the United Nations, this is a matter that has plagued our collective conscience. The solution lies with the tangible recommitment from all of us to the values that must bind us. Peace must reverberate in the Gaza Strip, in the West Bank, and in the whole of the Palestinian territory. And this is in our hands. I thank you.
Je remercie.
I thank the Minister for International Relations and Cooperation of South Africa. I now give the floor to His Excellency Paulo Rangel, Minister for Foreign Affairs of Portugal.
Son Excellence, Ministre des Affaires étrangères.
Your Excellency, Minister of Foreign Affairs of France.
Prince Faisal, Foreign Minister of Saudi Arabia. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Before any other statement or remark, let me be loud and clear. The war must end. The humanitarian crisis and starvation must end. This cycle of violence and destruction must stop. This cycle of violence, initiated with the barbaric attacks of October 7th and the capture of hostages, has led to the killing of thousands of civilians, women and children, and to the brutal destruction of almost all of Gaza's basic infrastructure. We face one of the most horrific sequences of violence between Palestinians and Israelis in their long and difficult history. Portugal understands the suffering of Israeli people. Portugal understands the suffering of Palestinian people. Peace and stability in the Middle East will remain elusive as long as Palestinians are denied their fundamental right to a viable sovereign state and Israel is threatened. For that to happen, the war in Gaza must come to an immediate end, and the massive delivery of humanitarian aid must resume immediately. There is no justification for starvation and for the inhumane killing of civilians, including children, seeking to meet their most basic needs. Freedom of movement of Palestinians in and throughout Gaza must be wholly restored, and the forced displacement of the Palestinian population is simply unacceptable. The destruction of Palestinian homes and properties in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, must come to a full halt. Likewise, settlement building in occupied land has to end, and settler violence against Palestinians has to be stopped. All hostages in Gaza must be released immediately and without any condition. The horror of the October the 7th attacks cannot be forgotten. Terrorism can never be justified. Excellencies, we thank the co-organizers, Saudi Arabia and France, for this very timely high-level ministerial meeting. Portugal reaffirms its unwavering commitment to the two-state solution. We have for the last 50 years consistently voted in favor of all resolutions pertaining to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. We maintain our political and our financial support to UNRWA. We reiterate our full support for the Palestinian Authority, for its empowerment and its capacitation. Only the Palestinian Authority grants the effective implementation of the two-state solution. We repudiate any decision that entails or envisages the annexation or occupation of the West Bank or Gaza Strip, either it is full or partial. We welcome the Arab Recovery and Reconstruction Plan presented at the Cairo Summit. We welcome the willingness of so many Arab countries to recognize Israel and to normalize relations with Israel upon the condition of the acceptance of two-state solution. We welcome the effective and unprecedented commitment by the Palestinian Authority to some essential conditions that are key to enable the two-state solution and to the recognition of Palestine. First, condemnation of terrorist acts by Hamas and call for its complete disarmament. Second, call for the unconditional and immediate release of hostages and prisoners. Third, commitment to internal institutional reform and to the organization of elections in the near future. Fourth, acceptance of the principle of a demilitarized Palestinian state. 5, readiness to resume the full administration and control of Gaza Strip. And 6th, recognition of the State of Israel and its security needs. These commitments of the Palestinian Authority are truly meaningful. Actually, these commitments substantiate a new step towards the implementation of the two-state solution. There is no doubt that this declaration of the Palestinian Authority, combined with the new position of so many states of the region towards Israel and its right to existence, in the very context of this conference, marks a turning point. Excellencies, an old Palestinian proverb says, kinship is kinship, but humanity is closer. Indeed, may the lessons of such a long suffering in the Middle East finally inspire a renewed collective sense of humanity and belief in peace, so that, as written in the Pirkei Avot, the world can stand on 3 things: justice, truth, and peace. Palestinian wisdom tells us that humanity is closer than kinship. Israeli wisdom reminds us justice, truth, and peace are the pillars of the world. Only a Palestinian state living side by side with Israel in peace, security, and prosperity can bring justice, truth, and peace to humanity. The war must end. Death, captivity, illness, and suffering must stop.
Je remercie le ministre.
I thank the Minister for Foreign Affairs of Portugal. I now give the floor to Her Excellency Rosa Yolanda Villavicencio, Acting Minister for Foreign Affairs of Colombia.
Buenos días.
Good morning, distinguished co-chairs, distinguished delegates, excellencies. While we are meeting here, hundreds of people are dying in Gaza. The world is watching with horror as a campaign of ethnic cleansing is rolled out against children, women, older persons, the sick and wounded, a campaign that is violating the most basic norms of international law. July was the most deadly month for the population of Gaza in the past 18 months. According to reliable information, on average, more than 100 Palestinians were killed by Israel each day this month. 10,000 more people have been injured. The figures show that despite international pressure, Israel has increased its violence. We are seeing indicators similar to those from February 2024. Enough is enough. The Gaza Strip is cut off from communications. There is no food nor drinking water, no medical care. Children are not going to school. Vaccination has been paralyzed, and the entry of humanitarian assistance has been blocked. Hunger has been added to Israel's arsenal of war, and now the population of Gaza is also dying of starvation. Enough is enough. And in the West Bank, settler violence, endorsed and encouraged by the occupying power, is imposing a regime of terror that openly defies international law. Enough is enough. We call for an immediate, permanent, and unconditional ceasefire and the end of the illegal occupation. We cannot remain indifferent in the face of the normalization of the systematic violation of the most basic norms of human coexistence. Enough is enough. With the disdain with which it has been addressing its international obligations, Israel is intending to destroy several decades of human progress, as reflected in the rules-based system that gave rise to the United Nations. The world cannot go back to tolerating the use of hunger as a method of war or apartheid as a system of segregation and exploitation. Enough is enough. Colombia reaffirms its historic support for a peaceful, just, definitive, and comprehensive political solution to the question of Palestine, one that is based on the solution of two states living side by side in peace and security within secure and internationally recognized pre-1967 borders, and recognizing the inalienable right to return of Palestinian refugees. But when we speak of the two-state solution, we have to be clear. This cannot be a cosmetic fix that legitimizes the occupation. The Palestinian state must be a viable sovereign political entity, and it must have the same conditions as any of the countries participating in this conference. It must possess its own government, the ability to defend itself and to protect its population, total jurisdiction over its territory and its airspace, control of its borders, and the chance to administer its natural resources. We cannot tolerate conditions being attached to the full exercise of the right to self-determination of the Palestinians. The Palestinian state has declared itself to be peace-loving, and therefore it should be admitted as a full member of this organization without further delay. In the meantime, it is the obligation of all states to take measures to counter this humanitarian catastrophe. Now is not the time for more speeches. Enough is enough. Colombia has shown that it believes in facts and not in words. We broke off diplomatic relations with the genocidal government in Tel Aviv, and we decided to stop selling it our coal. We are participating as an interested third party in the genocide case brought by South Africa at the International Court of Justice. And we have contributed to the proceedings on Israeli leaders currently underway at the International Criminal Court. Together with South Africa, we created the Hague Group, which is a platform for action and the pursuit of justice. We urge all countries to join these initiatives and to adopt similar measures. We hope that this conference will serve to galvanize the necessary international support that will allow for a definitive political solution to the question of Palestine, one that is based on the right of both states to self-determination and to live in peace. Thank you. I thank the Acting Minister for Foreign Affairs of Colombia. I give the floor to His Excellency Luca Beccari, Minister for Foreign Affairs, Political Affairs, International Economic Cooperation and Digital Transition of San Marino.
Co-Chair, Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, on behalf of the Government of the Republic of San Marino, I would like to thank the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the French Republic for co-chairing this high-level conference at a time when the need for moral clarity and political courage has never been greater. San Marino condemned unequivocally the attack of the 7th October, which caused tragic loss of innocent life. At the same time, we cannot remain silent in the face of a disproportionate military response that has followed, marked by widespread destruction, civilian suffering, and severe humanitarian consequences, including the lack of access of food, clean water, and essential supply, raising the alarming risk of famine. This constitutes a grave violation of international law and international humanitarian law. It is incumbent on both parties to strictly respect these fundamental norms, protect civilians, and preserve the possibility of a just and lasting peace. We come together not only as representatives of our government, but as human beings. The Secretary General of the United Nations recently spoke of a collective moral failure in the face of the catastrophe unfolding in Gaza. This word must resonate with us. More than 50,000 lives lost, including thousands of children. A society torn apart. A people deprived of dignity, security, and hope. The tragic death of UN and UNRWA staff members, humanitarian workers, and journalists must not be tolerated. This is not only a political crisis. It is a test of our shared humanity. San Marino stands unequivocally for an immediate and lasting ceasefire, for unconditional release of hostages, for the protection of civilians, and for the full humanitarian access in accordance with international humanitarian law. At the same time, we are deeply concerned by the continued expansion of illegal settlement violence against civilians and other unilateral action in the West Bank, which threaten the viability of a future Palestinian state and undermine the prospect for peace. The unity and territorial continuity between the West Bank and Gaza under the Palestinian Authority are essential and any meaningful two-state solution. However, we must look beyond the immediate emergency. It is time to reignite the political horizon. San Marino reaffirmed is unwavering support for a two-state solution as a sovereign, independent, and viable state of Palestine, living in peace and mutual recognition alongside the State of Israel, both within secure internationally recognized border and with Jerusalem as a shared capital. We believe that peace is not only possible, but necessary and achievable if the international community acts with unity and resolve. In this spirit, we support a multilateral framework led by the United Nations, building on the Madrid terms of reference, the Arab Peace Initiative, and the Peace Day effort, underpinned by strong international guarantees and credible security arrangements for all. Co-Chair, on 15 May 2025, the Parliament of San Marino adopted unanimously an historical recommendation committing the government of the Republic to recognize the State of Palestine by the end of this year. This is not a symbolic act. It is an outcome of deep reflection and a principled stance grounded in the values that define our Republic: the rejection of war, the right of people to self-determination, and the primacy of international law. The recognition process has already begun. The Ambassador of Palestine has formally presented her letter of credence to the Captain Regent, our head of state. The next step will be the appointment of a San Marino ambassador accredited to Palestine, establishing full diplomatic relations. We will also continue to support Palestine's full membership in the United Nations, as well as to affirm the need of international organization presence to deliver full and safe humanitarian assistance, especially for children, women, and the most vulnerable. San Marino urges all nations to take coordinated and courageous steps. We cannot allow violence, despair, and extremism to shape the future. We must act now to build a peace grounded in dignity, accountability, and mutual recognition. Co-chairs, San Marino believe that the value of the just peace and human dignity know no border. We stand ready to accompany this irreversible process, ensuring full respect for international law, compliance by all, and sustained engagement through credible multilateral mechanisms. Let this conference be remembered not as a missed opportunity, but as a turning point. Let us replace cynicism with determination and silence with action, by implementing the two-state solution and by defining a common framework for the recognition of the State of Palestine, with clear, shared milestones that can encourage all nations to take meaningful steps forward. Thank you.
Je remercie le ministre.
I thank the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Political Affairs, International Economic Cooperation and Digital Transition of San Marino. I give the floor to His Excellency Abdullah Ali Al Yahya, Minister for Foreign Affairs of Kuwait.
In the name of God, most compassionate, most merciful, Your Highness, Prince Farhan Al Saud, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and Minister Baron, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the French Republic, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, may the peace of God be upon you. Your thanks and appreciation to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and to the French Republic for convening this important conference. I would also like to thank the Presidency of the General Assembly and His Excellency the Secretary General for their great efforts to guarantee the organization and preparation of this conference. We meet today while exceptional and tragic circumstances continue to unfold in the Palestinian territory, especially the Gaza Strip. Gaza is being subjected to unprecedented Israeli military aggression, which has claimed dozens of thousands of martyrs, most of whom are women and children, and extensive destruction of infrastructures, hospitals, schools, water and electricity facilities, and even shelters. The oppressive blockade on Gaza and the denial of food, medicine, electricity, and water have led to a humanitarian catastrophe that threatens the lives of more than 2 million people, most of whom are innocent civilians. This has exceeded a catastrophe that has become a challenge to the human conscience. The continued military aggression and the disregard for humanitarian and legal principles represents an inability of the international community to perform its duties, and it encourages impunity. Therefore, there is an urgent need for immediate and effective international action. And based on the state of Kuwait's historical and firm principles, we would like to reiterate the following positions. First, full recognition of the state of Palestine within the borders of June 4th, 1967, with East Jerusalem as its capital. In this context, we welcome the recent steps by several states to recognize the state of Palestine, and we call on the states who have not yet done so to do so as a basis for justice and peace. Second, immediate and comprehensive halt of the Israeli aggression against Gaza and all the occupied Palestinian territory, and to end the targeting of civilians and infrastructure, and to guarantee the non-recurrence of such crimes. Third, the permanent and unconditional opening of all crossings to guarantee the flow of humanitarian and medical aid, and enabling relief operations to reach the persons in need without difficulty. Fourth, we reject all forms of forced displacement aimed at changing the demographic reality in the Palestinian territory, and we affirm the right of Palestinian refugees to return home in accordance with UN Resolution 194. Fifth, supporting the Palestinian government and its institutions and expanding its authority over the entire Palestinian territory as a fundamental step in building an independent Palestinian state. Sixth, ensuring the protection of civilians, ending the violations, holding perpetrators accountable before the ICJ, and enabling the international justice mechanisms to guarantee the lack of impunity. Seventh, supporting all political and diplomatic efforts to revive the peace process in accordance with UN resolutions, the Arab Peace Initiative of 2002, and rejecting all policies that delay the two-state solution. Ladies and gentlemen, the state of Kuwait believes that a just and comprehensive peace cannot be achieved without ending the Israeli occupation and enabling the Palestinian people of gaining their legitimate rights. The time has come for the international community to end the recurring tragedy and to act to protect the innocent, to stop the aggression, and to end the siege and force the Israeli occupation to respect international humanitarian law. We are witnessing a tragic humanitarian situation that no living conscience can accept. Innocent people are killed at the gates of hospitals, and Gaza is being deprived of water, food, and medicine. Will there be a savior? Will there be a supporter for the people of Gaza? May the peace of God be upon you.
Je remercie le ministre.
I thank the Minister for Foreign Affairs of Kuwait. I give the floor now to His Excellency Mr. Tauhid Hussain, Advisor for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Interim Government of Bangladesh.
Co-chairs, Excellencies, distinguished delegates. At the outset, I thank the co-chairs, France and Saudi Arabia, for convening this high-level conference at the time when unity and urgency are more important than ever in advancing the discourse on peace and justice in Palestine. In this respect, I also commend the unwavering commitment and diligence of the 8 working group members. Excellencies, Bangladesh approaches this conference with moral clarity and a solemn sense of responsibility. Our Constitution commits us to stand with those who face oppression and affirms the right of people of to self-determination. From our liberation war in '71 to the recent mass uprising in July and August last year, the people of Bangladesh always pursued the right to self-determination. That legacy shapes our empathy and enduring solidarity with the Palestinian people in their legitimate aspirations for an independent, sovereign state. Co-chairs, we reaffirm our steadfast support for the establishment of a viable and independent state of Palestine, based on pre-1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital. We believe peace in the Middle East cannot be achieved without justice for Palestine, and justice cannot be delivered without implementing the two-state solution, the only viable and internationally recognized path forward, based on international law, relevant UN resolutions, and the aspirations of the people of Palestine. We strongly endorse the initiative of the Global Alliance for the implementation of the two-state solution. The consensus must now be translated into concrete, time-bound action. Excellencies, to turn this vision into reality, we must urgently address two core